Hi Emma, thank you for joining me today for our Women Who Make It Happen series.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Would you give a brief introduction to you and a little bit about your career to date, please?
Sure. So I am currently the Chief Executive Officer for ClearBank UK. I've been with ClearBank for just over 4 years now, and I actually joined in the Chief Risk and Compliance Officer role. So I've been doing that since I joined, and then very recently transitioned into the CEO of the UK, which is a big part of our kind of group transition and international expansion. And prior to that, pretty much I've been in financial services and banking specifically my entire career, but in a few different organisations. So I started many years ago in HBOS, Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Banking Group, and much more in the first line in terms of relationship banking, sales, and a little bit of client service and operations. And after that, I moved into Silicon Valley Bank, which then was a little bit of a startup in a bigger organisation. So kind of joining to really get the banking license in the UK for a full commercial bank, and then built that out over time with a great leadership team there, with international expansion, new products, business lines, a little bit of time in California.
Very nice.
I mean, it's a lot nicer weather. That kind of led me into ClearBank.
Yeah, very good. I mean, well, your career is exemplary. Obviously, you're holding CEO now, so congrats.
Thank you.
How have you found that transition then? So from the bigger banking TradFi institution of HBOS and then into SVB, which, as you quite rightly said, was maybe like a smaller challenger bank that was building. How did you find that initially?
I think each role has kind of opened up the door to the next one, and each time I've got a little bit, and I've seen a little bit of something that I've really enjoyed, and I think that's kind of been that little scent of, oh, I really like this part of the role. So when I was in the kind of more traditional organisations, I kind of loved that ambition, that slightly competitive angle to it, the kind of constant drive, particularly because I was in more of a sales type role for a lot of that time. And I really loved the ability to kind of learn and grow in an organisation. And that kind of led me to Silicon Valley Bank in the early days, because I looked at it as, oh, look, this is something where I could be there from the start, see how it's built, learn things about licensing processes, figure out kind of new things like venture debt, for example, that I knew nothing about at the time, and wouldn't that be interesting? And so each time it's been about, there's something there that I could learn. That's really been the thematic through all of the roles, which is that opportunity to learn, acquire new skills, grow, and work with really great people, which has been a big thing that I've looked at for every role that I've gone for, and every organisation I've worked with is, do I like the people? Do I like the culture? Is this a place where I feel like I can be my true self?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And obviously, throughout your career, it's always been financial institutions, with now you being at ClearBank, which sounds a very exciting time. What motivated you to get into financial services anyway?
I think it was probably a little bit more accidental.
Okay.
I'd been doing a degree in law, and I was really looking for a graduate program because I wanted something with a little bit of structure to it. And I actually applied to a number of different places, and I got offered the role, the graduate program at Bank of Scotland. And one of the things I liked about it, and the thing I liked about graduate programs as a whole, was they offered you the opportunity to rotate. So that ability to kind of see lots of different things. I thought that would be a really great way of understanding a little bit more about what I want to do in my career, and what really excites me and motivates me after I've kind of left sort of study. And that was sort of what landed me in it, but it theoretically could have been anywhere. It just worked out really nicely that it was in financial services. And as it turned out, that felt like a really good fit for me in terms of the commercial side, and kind of the connection into business was something that for me was really connected with what I enjoy, and some of the skills and that I think I brought into that role at the very beginning.
Yeah. Clearly, ClearBank is on a journey as well with the banking licence in the EU. Mm-hmm. So what excites you about the organisation now to keep you engaged and keep you motivated?
I think I mean, I've been there 4 years. It's never been boring. I've never looked at it and gone, oh, okay, we've hit the peak. This is it. This is as good as it gets. It's kind of business as usual. One of the things I've loved is that we're so focused on innovation, and there is always something, an idea that's being seeded, maybe for something that no one's done before. And so, for example, we do embedded banking, and that didn't really exist that long ago, when we kind of co-created it with a partner of ours, and from our perspective and how we do it specifically, and that's really grown and taken off. And we've done quite a few things in my time at ClearBank that there wasn't a framework for how to do it. We had to figure it out as we went. I think we've got that, and then a really solid business that's got proven track record now, and that's what kind of keeps us exciting. And so as I look forward, we've not only got kind of that success to build on, and it's lovely being able to hear about how we're helping clients succeed. I really enjoy that part of the role, but then also all these other opportunities in digital assets and embedded banking, non-reg, where actually you can see there's an opportunity there to figure out something new and to work together to achieve something really different in the market. And I think that's the bit that's really exciting. Then you look ahead to the EU and go, oh, imagine if we then took that to a new geography and we connected the two up. And that's really exciting, that ability to grow the business really organically and through all those different kind of innovative products and ideas, and with a really great bunch of people. Yeah,
it sounds it. And I was grateful and thankful enough to be able to host the Digital Assets Embedded Finance event with Johnny Fry and Paul Staples, so thank you to them. Some really interesting things going on with ClearBank. In your role now as Chief Exec, clearly there's a lot of good people around you, which you've referenced. So what was the kind of turning point for you as wanting to get into a leadership role and being Chief Exec as well?
I don't think it was ever something I set out to do. I always looked at roles in terms of that learning and the growth, and I thought if I got to a place where I found the perfect role, as in I got to a place from a seniority perspective or from what I was doing where this felt like I found the perfect place, that's where I would stop. And as it turned out, kind of one of the things as I learned and moved through my career was I really enjoyed helping develop, coach and support other people to achieve their goals. So yes, I love my kind of own learning, but I love the opportunity to pass that on and to really help other people. And so that's kind of what led me into leadership, which was that kind of me investing my time and kind of paying it forward and working with some of those kind of more junior people or other people, helping them to achieve their career goals. And that I think is what sort of led me to a leadership role, but kind of not by design, as in, oh, I want to be the one who's in charge, but more of a, hey, this gives me more of what I love doing, and actually it seems to fit with what I'm reasonably good at, and therefore kind of it led me there. And I think the CEO role is kind of a natural progression for that. I didn't start my career in risk, and I really enjoy the risk landscape, but one of the things that I've enjoyed about risk is, yes, it's the opportunity to learn, but you see the whole business. And also, for me, if risk is done really well, it's a real enabler for the strategy. And that connects so closely into the CEO role. And so, yes, I have to make the mindset shift in terms of taking my risk hat off and putting the CEO hat on. But actually, there's a real close connection to that. And so it kind of, again, a bit like that part where it opens a new door. I see it and I look at it and go, wow, those are the things I love doing.
Yeah. How do you find that, taking the risk hat off and the chief exec hat on?
I think it will be like anything. It will take practice. You know, when you're learning to do something, like as you get more senior, the technical skills become less important, and the non-technical skills become far more of the thing that unlocks bigger roles, bigger opportunities. And I think with all those things, you have to practice until it becomes part of you. And I'll never be able to pretend that I don't love risk and that I don't know lots about it. But I think being able to do that and integrate it into how I do my CEO role, I think that for me is the piece that I'll work on over the kind of the next period to help me settle in and transition fully into the role.
Yeah. That's good. And with your background in risk, and you've mentioned about passing like knowledge, experience onto others. Just touched upon where did that leadership wand come from, essentially. It sounds more like it was opportunity and you grabbed it with both hands when you were given that chance to do it. What would you say your leadership style is?
I think it's evolved over time. And I think the one thing for me is I've always looked at all the people, I've worked with some really good people who invested in my growth, in my development. And I've always taken something away from each of them that's helped me evolve my style. From a general perspective, I kind of look at it from, I like to empower people. So I'm there to help coach and guide and support, and I'll help you and I'll be clear if there's something I think is a really bad idea, maybe because I've made the same mistake before, or I've gone down that path and I know it doesn't lead to good places, but kind of letting people make their own decisions and giving them that guidance and support, helping them to understand that making mistakes is part of learning. And I think that's a big thing. People can think, and I certainly did earlier on in my career, I had to be perfect. I couldn't make a mistake. And one of the things I've learned subsequently is it's okay to make a mistake. The most important thing is how you deal with it after. How do you rectify it? How do you make sure that you don't kind of keep repeating the same issue over and over again? And that's kind of something I like to help other people with, because I can see it when you make that, even if it's a small error and you spend time beating yourself up over it.
We've all been there.
Realistically, it's never usually the end of the world.
Yeah.
And even if it is, bad news never ages well. So you might as well just get people there to help and support you. Everyone's been there. To your point, we've all made mistakes, and therefore that's an opportunity for learning. So I think kind of that more supportive environment, more collaborative, I'd say, from a leadership perspective, but always wanting to look for the path forward. How do we move? How do we take action on this together? How do we make sure everyone's on that journey together with us as well, and we're aligned as we move forward?
Yeah. No, that's really good. And there's just one thing you mentioned there, Emma, if I could touch on it. So things that maybe you have taken from other people in your career that have helped you. So was there a particular role model for you that you aspired to or were inspirational for you?
Probably no one person. And I think part of that is, I've always looked at, you have to be true to yourself, because people can see through it if you're trying to sort of ape somebody else or pretend to be something you're not. So I've always looked at it more of I worked with lots of great people, and I think all of them, whether they're line managers or just people that peers or even people that have worked for me, and I've seen great things that they do, and I think, I love that. I love the way they did that. And I'd say, so for me, it's more everybody is a role model in some respect, and I take something away from that. It might be how somebody deals with something in a meeting, and I go, that's great. There was one manager who, actually I had two were really interested that taught me. One was very early on, and he would spend half an hour every day teaching me something. He didn't have to. It was valuable time. And he said, right, this is the bit, and because I came from law rather than finance, so I wasn't necessarily fully up to speed on all the technical parts. And so he'd teach me something technical every day without fail that he was in the office.
Oh gosh, wow.
Yeah, which is a big investment of time. And really helped me just in terms of making sure that I kind of knew the basics. And then, other people, I had another great manager when I was much more senior. And one of the things she said to me in meetings was, you never know what's going on with somebody when they're in a meeting. So it's, somebody might feel like they're disengaged, but you don't know that there's something else going on behind the scenes. They might have a headache today. It might have been a really bad morning for them. So sort of like thinking about that before you kind of rush to judgment that they're not engaged. And things like that. And I thought, wow, that's really, because I know I've felt like that before. And she just had this automatic acknowledgement that there's stuff that you don't know about going on, and kind of to sort of give people the space for that to happen. Yeah. And I thought that was really great too. So kind of a little bit from everyone I've worked with.
No, that's really good as well.
Magpie.
And giving back, like you mentioned. So, have you seen much change then in the industry over the time where you've started your career in the early days, and obviously within ClearBank now. So any changes really in mentality or adoption of D&I? I know it's a very big topic at the moment for all of us. So what have you seen?
Yeah, it's pretty different. I mean, I started my career 20 years ago, so it was quite a different place then. I don't think I ever heard the words diversity and inclusion mentioned 20 years ago.
No, not really.
No. So it was a really different place. Kind of attitudes were different. The way people thought about engaging and motivating and retaining people was different. It was much more male dominated, and there was a way of doing things, and you kind of had to fit with that, and you had to fit who you were into kind of how it was acceptable to operate, and it was that didn't work for some people.
Yeah.
And it was also now when you look back, you go, I can't believe that was the way things were, and because now it would seem so unusual, and I think there'd be absolute outrage if some of the things that, you know, again, you're probably not dissimilar, that you saw that time ago would happen now, you'd be horrified, but back then it was normal. And things have changed a ton now. That DEI agenda is really high. We're very thoughtful about how we support people in terms of inclusion and bringing people into the industry.
That's good, yeah.
So that, you know, we're a member of groups like Code First Girls to get women into kind of tech, Progress Together for socioeconomic diversity in financial services, the Women in Finance Charter to improve gender diversity. Those initiatives were unheard of.
Very good.
Then. Yeah. And now they're kind of, it's not a thing that we're doing, I think anyone's doing, hopefully, but certainly not ClearBank is doing to tick a box. It's really part of how we make sure that we are the best possible place to work, and we have the best possible kind of diversity of thought, because ultimately that will result in good business outcomes.
Yeah. And how have you found that? So when appointing for your business now within ClearBank, how have you found that diversity element? Has it been easy or challenging, and what's your take on it?
Different roles have been different. I think one of the things that I look for is what I really look for is a diverse pipeline of candidates, and to work with, whether we're sourcing direct or whether we're working with an agency or a headhunter, is how do we be really clear about needing that diversity up front, and kind of selecting, if you like, as well, who we work with on the basis that they share the same values. And like I say, diversity comes in lots of different guises. It doesn't necessarily mean just that gender, but you know, in order to build a really great team, you need lots of people with lots of different perspectives, lots of different experience, because you'll get a better outcome. You'll get more thought around it. You'll get the people that will call out the thing that's wrong with it, the decision you're about to make. And so I think that has been something that we've done kind of mindfully, and certainly I have, to help the process. But you've also got to be open-minded to make sure that you're not kind of ruling people out on the basis of something that might be kind of biased. So I think we're doing, from a UK exco perspective, I think we're doing pretty well. And we've appointed our CFO, and we've got our COO and a CRO, and we've got a really diverse group of people, and I think that's been really great. But also at the heart of it, really fantastic candidates. Yeah. So really excited about how that team comes together.
Yeah, that's really good. And you've touched on, I think, a lot of other points that have come up in this series that you're joining me today to do, about like social mobility and religious background or ethnicity. So it all comes together, doesn't it, if you collaborate in that diversity of thought. So yeah, really, really good to know how progressed ClearBank is with that. So just finally, really, Emma, and I always like to end on this. So clearly you've done exceptionally well. If there were some words of wisdom or reflecting back to your younger self, what words of advice would you give? Or maybe even to younger female talent?
I think if I look back, there were always people along the way, and maybe this was also probably a little bit the sign of the times, who were always telling me that I had to change myself in order to be successful.
I don't believe in that.
No, neither do I. But at the time, it was quite hard. So I think sometimes you go in with this belief that a leader or a manager or whatever it is that you aspire to be comes in a certain form, and they have certain characteristics, and that maybe they have a certain background, or maybe it's whatever it is, and you have to look like that, you have to be like that in order to succeed. So if you think about your classic CEO, people think of, quite often they think of a male characteristic anyway, but they think of the extrovert, the big personality, the big ideas person, the loud person. And I'm an introvert, and I'm happy about that. I'm not going to change because it's probably a bit late for me.
Neither should anyone.
No. But actually, you don't need to. Leadership comes in all shapes, forms, and the most important thing, if I look back, is, and I wish I had accepted this more, was I don't need to change in order to be successful, and I don't need to change to be a leader, and I don't need to fit a certain mould.
Yeah.
For any of this, I just kind of need to be me, and learn and develop all the skills and everything else that I need to be successful, but be authentic to me.
Yeah.
I think that's, for me, the biggest takeaway, and probably the biggest thing when I'm mentoring other people is, I'm going to give you lots of advice, maybe hints and tips, but take what you need and what's true to you, and work out how that fits, or how something fits and how you want to be. Don't have anyone tell you you should do it like this, or this is how you should be. And that, for me, is the biggest piece of advice I give to my younger self, and I would give to anyone who I'm talking to about how to kind of think about their career and how to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful message. So be your authentic self.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to change.
Nope.
Well, thank you, Emma. I'm sure those words will resonate. So thank you very much for joining me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.